Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. Well, for you, it is 8 a.m. Eastern. For Mark and I, it is the afternoon in Lithuania. We're coming to you from Lithuania this morning. And so our show, while live today, we actually recorded for you yesterday. So, Mark, we are here speaking at a sales conference, but we decided that we were still going to do Sales Logic. We had some amazing things to talk about. So, what's on tap for
Well,
today?
what's on tap is we're going to talk about how sales in a global world. How do you sell globally? Because again, we're here in Vilnius, Lithuania. So it's a perfect time to be talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'll hit the video and we will rock and roll.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
All right, this is Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything you need to know to, well, sell logically. Now, Mark, the show that we bring to you every Saturday morning, we always start off with a question from you, the audience. I'd say that's our favorite part of the show. We've got a hot topic. We recommend a book. And because we want you to leave with return on investment, we've got a lightning round, those strategies that we can put into place right away. So, Mark, what is on tap for today?
Well, on tap, we're going to be talking about selling to a global audience. How do you sell globally? Because competition, we all have competitors globally, right? So we better be able to sell in that global. Hey, since we're in Lithuania today, great topic to talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll recommend a book and you will leave with a lightning round, the best things that you need to know and understand to break into a global marketplace. So that leads to the question today, and it comes from Yamit in Jerusalem. And she reached out and asked, she said that they have been basically a company selling in Asia and some European countries, and they want to sell in. They want to break into the market in the United States of America. They feel like it holds a lot of potential, but they have no connections here. They know no one here and don't know very much about the market other than it's hot. So she wanted to know what advice, if it were up to Mark and I, and even up to the audience, what would you do to break into let's just leave it at a brand new market. Let's not even use the US. But a market that you want to break into that you've never, ever sold in before, you have no connections and you know very little about. Where does she start?
Well, it starts off. In fact, it's funny because that was the same question I got just as I came off the stage. A gentleman asked me, we're getting hit by this company in South Africa. How do we sell to other companies? It comes down to understanding what is the outcome you create, because chances are, I love her. She's the question from Israel. They're probably saying, we got cheaper price competitors. How do we create? Understand what is the outcome you create and who do you appeal to? And that is the market that you got to start with. And you first got to see the market. So it's going to take some marketing efforts. It's probably going to take social media. It's probably going to take reaching out. But don't try to take on everybody. What you want to do is just start off with 5 or 10 accounts that you're going to say, who are the people I should be contacting? And just start slowly building out from there. We'll probably dig in deeper here, but I bet you got some thoughts.
Yeah, any country that you sell into, but especially the US, it's big, right? Really big. So I think you need to start out by doing some research and understanding where's your best entry point. I mean, which industry should you start with? Which industry in which part of the country? The other is, I'm going to push back that you know no one. I seriously doubt you know no one. So go out to your current customers and figure out where their tentacles reach into the country that you want to sell into. They could probably make an introduction, a recommendation, or even a referral. But it can seem overwhelming when you begin to go global. So the best advice I can think of is to really start small. Figure out the industry, what part of that country. I mean, even if I was thinking about right now selling into Israel, I wouldn't take on the whole country all at once. I would think, what part do I want to sell into? What industry? And then figure out where I've got my connections there.
That brings up a great phrase. Think global, but act local. Because you got to understand the nuances of that respective country. Because if you don't understand the nuances of that respective country, you're not going to be. It was amazing. I'm sure you did too. You had a number of people say, "Oh, I've been following you for a long time." Well, these people are in Lithuania. We're both in the United States. It's amazing how social media is a global tool.
Yeah.
So you better make sure that you've got a social media presence, because it is called the World Wide Web.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also say that you need to start by asking for advice, not business, versus asking for business. Because if you ask for business right away, you're going to get a lot of advice. If you ask for advice, you'll find business. And quite frankly, you need advice. You don't understand the country. You don't understand the customs. You don't understand the competition. You don't understand the nuances. And you could sit for weeks and Google all of that online, but nothing is going to give you better information than just go out and talk to people. Like, my suggestion is I would pick 10 companies and I wouldn't even try to sell them anything. I would just go there with the understanding that we want to sell into the United States. We want to break into these markets. What are your thoughts? What's your advice? What's your best strategy? What do you think we need to know and understand? And what you're going to find out is going to be invaluable for helping you build your strategy.
See, I love that whole advice thing, because what are you doing? You're asking for their opinion.
Yeah.
And when you ask people their opinion, they love to share it.
Yeah.
And again, we all have far more global contacts than we realize. Because again, you can go out to LinkedIn, find people you're connected to, then look at who they're connected to. Chances are they're going to be in that country that you want to go into. But that's the key thing also. Don't sit there and try to take on the whole world. Pick a country that you're going to go into. Israel, you want to come into the U.S. You may not be trying to do the entire U.S. It may just be the Eastern Seaboard, some area of it, or however it is. But define your market, define it tight. Because your objective is get that advice to allow you to bring value, because you have to be seen as somebody who they view as a peer, because you're bringing value to them. That means you better take time to listen.
Yeah. You also need to understand the customs, the strategies, the habits, what's important, in that country, what matters to them. We were at dinner last night with our meeting planner here in Lithuania, and of course we're so close to the war in the Ukraine here, and that's really uppermost in people's mind, the level of uncertainty and the country pride they feel for those types of things. So understand the country that you're going in. I mean, the history of it, as well as what they're going through right now. You want to make sure that the people that you're selling to, that you've taken the time to get to know what's important. The other is, you sure as heck don't want to put your foot in your mouth and say something or adopt a custom that they don't see as, okay. I think of all the times I've sold in Asia, or I've worked in Asia. I've got to be so mindful of what's important to them.
You've got to. I remember I was in India a few years ago, and one of the things, they're into cricket. Now, I don't really understand cricket, but I took the time to understand cricket. And what did that do? They felt I was their best friend last night at dinner. Like I said, we were talking about the situation in Ukraine, and it was very passionate to the meeting planner, and the other person was there. And because, again, you're showing interest in them. I'll never forget a major company I was working with years ago. They were out of the UK, and they were trying to come into the US. And they thought they were going to come into the US and treat it just like they did in the UK. And you know what? We may speak the same language, but let me tell you something. There's a lot of differences. And ultimately, they failed, and they pulled out because they thought they could come into the US. No, take the time culturally, understand the local community, country, before you even think about trying to come in.
Yeah. I'd say the other thing you want to do is make sure that you're not taking your foot off the gas as to where you're currently selling and where where the bulk of your revenue and your customers are. Before you think about selling globally, you've got to make sure that you have protected your home territory. I see that far too often. People decide to get into new markets, and you get so excited by the shiny object or the new market, but it's going to take time to break into that. It's going to take a while until you land your first customer, you really make that profitable, and too much energy and too much resources going there and taken away from what's currently paying your bills and paying your revenue. Don't open a new market by sacrificing the current market that you're in.
And I'm going to add to that. Don't think you're going to come in with all your products and services.
Yeah.
Come in with a very tight product offering.
Mhm.
Stay tight. Stay tight. This is what this UK company did wrong. They wanted to come in and they were going to try to boil the ocean, try to boil the U.S. It wasn't going to come in with very tight and then hold firm. Don't sit there and play this game. Well, we're going to come in really cheap to kind of establish a presence. You know what happens? Then you become known as the cheap kid.
Yeah.
Take the time, establish value, stay tight with one product or one service. As you begin to develop your market, then you slowly begin to build out from there. But going back to what y'all said, timetables. Don't even think it's the timetable you have in your current country. Oh, because you really have no idea what the timetable is.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah. I'd also say, you need to figure out where the influencers are. Like, anytime that I try to sell into a new market, whether it's here in the US or whether I'm going globally, but what companies and what people, if I connected and landed with them, could really make a difference. Like if I got that one, the reputation of getting that business would naturally bring me, other business. I was just talking here with one of the people that came up and spoke with me was the head of the Chamber of Commerce. And just the very fact that I was talking with him, 6 or 7 other businesses came up because they knew him. And it was an easy lead in to get to connect with other people. So think about the market. Who are the influencers? And sometimes those deals can take a little bit longer to land, but the payoff of those deals, if you're doing business with so-and-so, other companies will naturally follow.
I'm going to do this for all of you listening in the US. Here's the situation. And this even applies to Canada. It's amazing how US people don't understand Canada.
Yeah.
I love asking US people, what's the capital of Canada? Oh, Toronto. Wrong. What's the capital of Australia? Sydney. Wrong. I mean, it's amazing. You have to understand the geopolitical situation of the country you're going into.
Yes, very much so.
I have spent time in South Korea. And let me tell you something, you better understand the political nuances and how the major corporations run that country. Because again, what does that do? It allows you to connect on their level. Because when you can ask somebody from that country, and you can do this in person or online, when you ask them a question about something current going on in their country, wow, he actually understands where we're coming from. So key. And of course, that doesn't just apply for US people going to and I give this shout out. People outside the U.S. understand the U.S. I think almost better than U.S. people understand the U.S.
I would say
it's
that
embarrassing.
Too. It's also if you're going to another country and the language is different, try to learn a little bit of it. I opened my keynote this morning by saying hello in their native tongue. Now that's all I could speak.
Lavaz.
Yes, right.
And it's okay. I cheated. I did the same thing. There it is. So.
But I did. I went up and I asked the meeting planner because I think even trying. But Mark, I think your point is so important that you need to understand. I mean, I realize we're selling a product and the industry, but you need to understand the landscape of where people are and where they're going through and what the feel for the country is.
Because you may understand your product, but you don't understand the outcome. Well, I know what our product does. Yeah, hold it. You don't understand how it's going to be used in the country you're selling into. Every outcome must be put into context of the company or the person that's doing it.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand the context, it does not matter at all.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I mean, just here in Lithuania, independence and being entrepreneurial is very important to them. They haven't been out of communism really that long. And so there's such a different passion level for it here than I would even say in the US. And if you're in Vietnam, it's kind of the same thing. But if you're in Cambodia, it's not as much. And so sort of understanding where people are. The other thing, Mark, I think it's important to decide, why did you choose that country to go into? I mean, when you think about selling globally, there's so many different markets that you could go into. Don't just pick one randomly. Really start to think about what's the one that makes the best sense given the product that I sell. And if you sell in Europe, what would be another place to sell that would be most like Europe? Make the leap easily for you, rather than going from like the US to China, right?
Yeah. And there's something to add to this too, because every country has their own definition of risk tolerance. And here in Lithuania, there's a high risk tolerance because everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But in other countries, there's a low level of risk. So you got to understand what's the risk tolerance, because that also kind of comes back to their willingness to invest, their willingness to buy. Because again, risk and money has a funny combination. They kind of go together.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand it, because there are some countries around the world where risk is actually avoided and they will minimize risk. So again, if I'm coming in as the new kid on the block, I have got to be really patient because they're not going to make an investment until they know the risk has been minimized.
Yeah.
And other countries, it's the opposite.
But I know that you're working for not a large company, but a fairly good sized company. And to expand into the United States of America you're going to add people. And I would suggest you add people in the country you're thinking about selling into. Local market knowledge is huge. I mean, we do that when we think about, going from selling in North Carolina to selling in Florida. If you can hire somebody who's had some boots on the ground for a while and can give you some perspective about the best way to crack that market, or somebody that already has connections and relationships there, it's going to put you way ahead.
But you got to be careful because again, you can throw this thing out on the internet or out on LinkedIn, or whatever. Hey, I'm looking for and you'll get plenty of people. Whoever you decide, because remember, they are the face of the company.
Yes.
You got to be very careful at who you're willing to do business with. Because if you're going to bring in another partner to help you in that country, you have to vet them triple what you would in your local country. Because again, if they're not the right one to start with, you're toast.
Right.
You are not going to succeed.
Yeah. The other thing I think you need to do before you ever think about selling globally is what's the cost of selling globally? I mean, it's going to be far more expensive. It's going to shrink your margin some, even if you can get a price, just because to get the infrastructure behind you to sell globally. So is it the smart and is it the right move? I mean, would it be better for you to focus on bringing more attention home? We were talking about this. I mean, Mark and I speak all over the world, but it's never as profitable as speaking in the US. I mean, it's more work, it's longer travel. I mean, we would never want to move our businesses that much because the profit margin and things aren't as high. So what makes sense for you to do that? And how is it going to increase the cost of goods sold? And where does that fit?
Okay, so why did we come from the U.S. here to Lithuania?
Because it's an amazing experience.
No, but it is. It is. And see, this is the other thing. Every country you move into helps give you another perspective, which is going to help you in the framework to be able to open up the next country. So you do have to start. But culturally, you've got to take the time to listen and understand. Don't come in thinking you know everything, because you will bomb. You'll bomb this way.
Yeah. I'd also say every couple of months do a debrief. Really figure out what's working for you and moving into that country, what isn't working for you. And if it makes sense, keep going. If it doesn't, don't be afraid to pull the plug. I was working with a medical device company, and we had made the decision to try to break into the Asian market. And at first it looked like it was really going to work. And then there were just a couple of countries that we were selling into that it didn't make sense. Vietnam made sense. We were going to continue to sell into there. But some of the countries, we just made the decision to pull back because it wasn't profitable.
See, that's key. Just because you start doesn't mean you have to finish.
Yeah.
And that's why you say you may want to take a look at going into 2 or 3 countries and saying, okay, after 6 months or a year, we're going to look at which one do we double down on. Now, also, don't automatically assume just because you get a quick sale in one country that, oh, suddenly we found the next biggie. No, because you may have just taken a ride on a flyer.
Yeah.
You may have just gotten lucky. So you do have to be very careful. And you want to be able to say, can I establish a relationship with this company, or this customer? Because I always say you don't close a sale, you open a relationship. So if I open up a new customer in a new country, I want them to hopefully be the ones who can take me to the next one, take me to the next one. So it means I'm going to shop a little bit more carefully in terms of who I'm going to be talking to, because I want to get profile companies, companies who have relationships.
Yeah. We probably should transition into the book now.
Yes. And
you've got a great suggestion on the book.
We have got a great, and I just lost it here on my phone. What happened to it? I just lost it on my phone here. It is by Barbara Weaver Smith, and it is global whale hunting with global accounts. And do really highly recommend, because there really aren't too many books out about how to sell globally.
No, and Barbara Weaver Smith is an expert in whale hunting, how to land the big whale, the big accounts. And again, if you are focused on big accounts, probably whale hunting is probably going globally is probably a direction you've got to go, with mergers and acquisitions and who owns what company.
Yeah, because there's no sense in going into another country if you're trying to get little $10 sales.
Yeah.
That's just, what did we do?
Yeah.
Invest your time wisely. Yeah.
Yeah. I would also say, coming to a country like Lithuania, are the companies I'm calling on, are they owned here in Lithuania? I mean, do you understand that where the corporate headquarters and things are? But Barbara covers all of that and so much more in our.
Well, which brings up a good point, because many times you may have a company already that you're dealing business with in your country that has subsidiaries in the country you want to move into.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's a great, easy way to get in to that country. So, hey, before we jump into the lightning round, we got 2 webinars next week,
Yeah.
February 9th. You're doing one. So I want to tell the audience about it, because we'll put a link in there on that.
Yeah, so at noon Eastern on February 9th, I'm doing my annual New Year's resolution, small RE capital solutions. It's everything that you need to know about the challenges you're going to face in 2023, but more importantly, far more importantly, what you need to do and what you need to act on in order to turn all of this uncertainty into your competitive advantage. Make 2023 your best year on record. You can catch the link here in the show notes and sign up. See you there.
And we're doing a second webinar that same day where we're going to be part of a panel with Calendly talking about selling in difficult economic times, which again, piggybacks from here. So this, just block your calendar for February 9th for us. Okay.
Yeah, you go. Well, and I think it's important because we are going to be talking about the reality of the challenges in the marketplace, but why 2023 in both webinars can truly be your best year on record.
Okay, lightning round. Ready?
Yeah.
Top 10 ways to sell globally.
Well, number one is I think you need to find your in. You need to find your niche, your way that you're going to start and get in there.
Find companies that you're already selling to who may have subsidiaries or connections in the countries you want to move into.
Do your research, do your homework, understand the country and the industry you're selling into.
Understand them culturally, politically, so the whole social framework of that country before you race in.
Yeah, if you can, if you're in a position, hire some local talent, some people who already understand the marketplace and already have connections there.
When you move in, you may establish a relationship or two, establish a contact too, but if it's not being fruitful after an X period of time, pull out. Even Walmart, as successfully they've been globally, they've gone into countries and they pulled out.
Yeah.
Because it's just not working. Don't hesitate to pull out.
Yeah. I would say that you need to decide, get really good measurements and milestones. What is going to be successful? What do you want to have achieved by a certain amount of time? So have a good strategy before you go in.
Great. I'll share one more and you share one more. Don't think the current timetable you have for opening up accounts is going to work in the new country. You don't know what that timetable is.
Yeah, I would say right now, I just think it's so important to look at the volatility of that country. Going into a new country is about sinking a lot of resources, time, energy, people. Does it make sense? And is there enough stability in that country to go in there? Globally right now, there are a lot of unstable countries, unstable from, war perspective, from an economic perspective, just a threat perspective in general. Just make sure that it's a stable environment. And if you go in there, your investment will work out.
And hey, today's show, we are in Vilnius, Lithuania. This is absolutely a kick. Okay, we did record this because of the 8 or 9 hour time difference between here and 8 a.m. But anyway, it works. So anyway, hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. We hope you like, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. And if we've helped you in any way, made you $1 or $2, tell a friend, would you? Because it's how we grow when we help you grow. And that's what our number one commitment is. And remember, what is Sales Logic all about?
Sales Logic is all about helping you learn the strategies, everything that you need to know to sell more effectively. Remember, you can be a part of the show by going to saleslogicpodcast.com, review the show there. I think more importantly, go ahead and put in a question and we'll feature you right here on Sales Logic. I'm Meredith Elliott Powell.
I'm Mark Hunter, and we've even got listeners here in Lithuania. Yes.
That's right. All right. We'll see you next week live again, 8 a.m. Eastern, right here for Sales Logic. Until then, why don't you open a global market, do something to win a new prospect and drive your bottom line results. Good selling this week. We'll see you.